Let's start by you just telling us a little bit about your daughter. What is her story?
Well, Ellie was born in China in 1999. She was very little when we adopted her at 6 months old. She was just about 7 pounds at 6 months. So in the orphanage, she really didn't have great care there. I think they were doing the best that they could with what they had, but she wasn't held. She wasn't really nurtured. So she didn't receive that bonding experience. When we adopted Ellie at 6 months old, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I got a papoose, and I used to actually wear her. So I would have her attached to me. We really tried to do just a lot of different bonding things, and we'd go to little play groups and do things like that. I tried to bond and connect, but there just wasn't that connection, that bond. We just always wanted, we had already had one daughter, we just wanted to have another daughter. And we just really wanted another family member in our family. And we were just drawn to China and to get Ellie. So Ellie was definitely intended to be in our family, and we were intended to be in Ellie's life as well. And so being all together, we we try to do lots of family things together, and we would try to have fun, and we used to have a lot of. It was a struggle. It was actually a big struggle. With trying to just enjoy time together. Ellie just didn't want to connect with me. She really didn't connect with my husband, but they tried to kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing. And there just wasn't a connection with my oldest daughter, but they were trying to get through it too, because Ellie was a part of our lives. And it just wasn't happening. When Ellie got to school age, she really didn't care about school. She didn't care about life. She didn't care about friends. She really didn't want any outside attention. We tried to have little birthday parties and for her, and that didn't go so well. With schooling, it was just always a struggle. She didn't care. She didn't want to know. And from the very beginning, watching Ellie, when we'd be at church or wherever we were all together, we'd be with friends, I could tell she was really, really smart. And she just didn't care. So she failed a lot of classes. We tried to get her involved in different activities. She didn't want to be involved in the activities. There was just a lack of desire for anything. I couldn't figure out what it was that could motivate her and what could get her going, what would make her happy.
So in the months leading up to her time here at CMA, tell us about that.
Now she was in 7th grade, and she should have been in 8th grade, and in 7th grade she really was failing. They were passing her through to the next grade because, it was just, she'd be too old. And there were just lots of disciplinary issues. I was fearing at that point for Ellie's life, what would it look like for her in the future? She was supposed to be going into her freshman year, and she was actually going into 8th grade, and her future looked scary to me. And as her mom, I love her like crazy, but I feared for her life, because you need to be able to at least have an education. Ellie still, at that point, still didn't have connections with people. She didn't want connections with people. I saw some depression coming in. Authority was, the issues with authority was huge. So we needed to really figure out what was going to help her and give her a future. And I saw it coming years prior to that, but over the past 2 years, it was really bad because I just didn't see improvement. I didn't really see her wanting a life.
So how did you come to select CMA as the right choice for your family?
We had looked at a bunch of different and talked to a bunch of different Christian-based boarding schools that had great reputations, and they really were fantastic, but Ellie had some issues that really needed to be targeted, and that was just wanting a life. So it wasn't just issues with authority or a bad relationship with me, it was just we needed her to want something, to want to wake up in the morning and want a future for herself. So I talked to a lot of boarding schools over the past 2 years prior to her being here, and they were wonderful, but it just wasn't it. And after many Google searches, honestly, I don't know what page I was on Google, but I finally found CMA, and I called and spoke with some people in Indiana at Crosswinds, and I thought, oh, this sounds more like it. This could really work for Ellie. I really believe that you can't really heal from within until, at least in our situation with Ellie, you have to be able to give, and you have to want to give. And then that's when I think you can start to, feel a little bit of healing, and that's where things kind of help your heart. So after long conversations and lots of research with Crosswinds and with CMA and talking with parents who had children here, we finally made the decision that CMA was the place to go. I was on board. I was 100% on board. My husband really struggled with it, and we both love Ellie very, very much. It was just a hard thing to let go. But we finally got to the point, it was a turning point for us, and it was maybe 3 weeks prior to Ellie coming here. There were just some things that happened, and we just knew at that point. My husband finally said, okay, it's time. And we took the leap. And we decided we can't do this anymore. What we're doing, it isn't working. And we've tried everything. We've been all over the country. We've talked to the best therapists. We've brought her to the best therapists all over the country, and this isn't working. We need to give her over to God. We're not giving her over to society where she could just, do whatever she wants. We were giving her over to God, and God was placing her in a place that was surrounded with people, where she would be surrounded with people who love Jesus and want to help. It's their mission to help. So CMA was the place that we decided to send Ellie.
And when you first came, tell me a little bit about that. How hard was that, and what was that process like, that first couple of days, bringing her here?
That was the hardest thing we had ever done. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. It was painful to have to tell Ellie that she was going to boarding school, and that she was going to boarding school in the Dominican Republic, in the Caribbean. So that's a big one. So that was really hard. There were lots of tears. There was anger, obviously. I think on Ellie's part, she had to feel like an abandonment was about to happen, and just that feeling of loss, that feeling of great loss. But I don't think she believed it until we landed in the DR. And she burst into tears when we landed. And the two of us just cried from the time we got off the plane, all the time that, CMA, that Caitlin came and they brought another student and they were very welcoming, but we couldn't stop crying, both of us. It was just a great loss. And when we got here, the girls and the house staff met us, and they were really sweet. They all gave Ellie hugs and were welcoming. And Ellie's very shy, so not so much anymore. She's assertive in a wonderful way. But it was so scary to her that she was going to a place in the Dominican Republic that she really didn't know much about. And it was scary to me, but I really felt that this was the right place for her. And we had to take this leap. We had to do it because we couldn't do this anymore. We weren't giving her a chance. This was giving her a chance. So the first night was difficult. She spent the night with the girls in Bethany House, and I spent the night in the little apartment down by where the school is. And it's just, steps away, but it was the first separation. And boy, that night I struggled all night long. I actually ended up meeting with Jeff, and I didn't know if I could leave her. And I cried and cried, and she cried and cried. And the next morning, I knew I had to leave her here to give her a chance. And walking up the hill to go see her at Bethany House, I saw Ellie sobbing on the porch. And there she was with Caitlin. I don't think Caitlin slept that night. And Ellie was just sitting there sobbing, and Caitlin was comforting her and talking with her. And you could see just the gentleness and the space she was giving Ellie, but still being gentle and kind. And I'll never forget it, just walking up there and seeing that. I thought, I'm letting go, and she's in a good place. And I'm letting God take control of all this.
So as she's been here, tell us, just as a family, what have you learned? Talk about your sessions with Mindy, your therapist, and just how that helped your family.
Mindy helped us. She helped us learn how to communicate better with each other. Ellie is very introverted, and she's raised in a family of extroverts. And that was a really difficult thing to learn, how my husband and I could communicate better with Ellie, and Ellie could communicate better with us. How we process what she says and what she does, and how she processes what we do and what we say. And it took months to get to that point where we learned how to communicate with each other. And those first few sessions, they were tough. I mean, there was anger, there was resentment, there's bitterness, there's love that we want to share with her, but it's kind of like trying to hug a porcupine. It was really difficult, but we were trying. And I think to Ellie too, she probably wanted to hug us back, but almost didn't even know how, because how do you connect with somebody that you could never connect with before? And Mindy just kind of got us through all of this. So Christmas was difficult for everybody, but I think in January, that was kind of the turning point for Ellie. She really started to see that things weren't changing, she needed to change. And the staff loved her, and they were surrounding her with kindness, but firmness and gentleness. And she was able to start to move forward. I have really been trying to figure out the best way to explain what Ellie's life was like before this past January, as we sit here in the month of July. Up until January, it was almost like Ellie was always living in a house with all the windows shut, and there was no light coming in, no life coming in, no oxygen, no fresh air. And no matter how many times we tried to get into her little house, we couldn't. No matter what we did, we couldn't get in there. And it just seemed like in January, she opened up the window just a little bit. And at that point, a little bit of air came in, and she liked it. And then she lifted up the window a little bit more, and a little bit more air came in, and a little bit of sunshine came in. And by February, she took off. She just started to care. And I said to Ellie the other day, or last night, I said, when did you really feel the change? And she said, I think it was in January. I said, what was it that it felt like? She said, I said, what was the change? She said, I had hope. And for her to say that like she had hope. She never had hope before. And now she had it. And like for a mom to hear that, it was like the most amazing thing to hear, And
Yeah.
so it was just really, really incredible when she said that.
Wow.
She pushed the reset button at that point. And at that point, she finished up eighth grade, and just kind of got through it. But then she started working on her freshman year, I think in some point in February. And she knew it was going to be hard. She knew it was, but she started plowing through it. She got through it. She started going up in the levels because she was now accepting responsibility. Our therapy sessions started to she just started opening up. One of the things we asked her to do is, Ellie, we want you to tell your story, because she has an incredible story. I've just touched on it today, but her story is really extraordinary. And that was one of the things that was her homework in therapy, was she had to tell her story to at least 3 people. And for Ellie, my introvert, it was painful for her to do, but she did it. And she started to make connections. She started to make relationships with people on campus, and some of the girls, but a lot of the staff. Ellie really connected a lot with the staff. And she just really blossomed at that point and wanted life. She started talking about college. She started talking about her hopes and dreams that she had, and goals that she was setting for herself. And we'd be able to talk logically about goals that she had. And she just wanted to move forward and have a life.
That's neat. So, what would you tell a parent who is in a similar situation as you were about CMA? What advice would you give them? What would you tell them?
I'd say let go of the wheel and let God take control. It was the hardest thing we did, was letting go. And what a gift. My daughter has a chance. You know, she wants life. She wants hope. She has hope. She has hope. She wants a future. I would just encourage them to just let go and give them a chance. Think about what their future is if everything stays the same. If they keep doing the same thing over and over again and they don't make this change. We tried it. We tried it for years. We kept doing the same thing over and over again, and then we'd switch it up with a different counselor, a different therapist, anything. And we'd be consistent with that, and it just helped a little bit. You know, it alleviated a little bit of pain, but it wasn't until we let go and gave God the control, and he just said, I've got this. And it really felt like he was saying that, you know, like I've got this. Rolled up his sleeves and he just molded Ellie like a potter, you know, he just molded her, and he's just done miraculous things in her life, just giving her a chance to want closeness with her family, with us. We listened to a song last night that she wanted me to hear, and it was really neat, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was by this artist I had never heard of before. I don't know how she found him, but it was about a guy who wanted to be with his family, and he hadn't been around them. He had kind of gone his own way, and now he wanted to come back, and he wanted to just have the simplicity of life, sitting around the dinner table and talking with family and just taking walks. And Ellie, it was important for her to have me listen to this song last night, and it was beautiful. Just seeing her that's how she's expressing how she does things, how she feels. And it was like this invitation into her heart. And so I would just encourage families to just let go and give your child a chance at this opportunity of being in a different country, turning everything off, getting away from the hustle and bustle, and having a simple life for a short while, to give them a chance.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's sad to see Ellie go, but also what we've all been praying and hoping for. So.
Well, thank you.
It's really neat.
Thanks.